Hello everyone and welcome to Children's Church Online. I'm Felicia Baumgartner.
And I'm Lydia Sims. And today we are going to continue following the Israelites on their journey into the Promised Land.
So far we've been learning about how they were getting to the Promised Land. But for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be learning about how they conquered the land once they got there.
So the first big battle was the Battle of Jericho. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the fall of Jericho in our scripture story.
Hi, I'm Henry Wilson. I am going to read Joshua 6, the Battle of Jericho. The first city the Israelites came to after crossing the Jordan River was Jericho. It was a very large city with huge walls surrounding it on all sides. God told Joshua how to defeat the city. Joshua ordered 7 priests with trumpets to march before the ark. They were to march in front of the Israelites' army, encircled the city once. No one was to talk during the march. After they finished circling Jericho, the Israelites returned to camp. They did this once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Israelites got up and at dawn and marched around the city 7 times. The priests blew a loud note on their horns, and Joshua said, "Shout, for the Lord has given you this city." The Israelite soldiers yelled as loud as they could. The walls of Jericho began to shake, and God caused them to come tumbling down. Israel obeyed God's instructions and won the battle. Now let's watch the video.
The Faithful Hall of Fame, Joshua. This is Joshua.
Oh, hey.
Joshua was the leader of the Israelites, who God used to bring his people to the Promised Land.
Yeah, let's do it.
When God told Joshua it was time to take the Promised Land, Joshua sent spies into the city of Jericho. While those spies were in Jericho, they were protected by a woman named Rahab. The spies promised to spare Rahab and her family when they took back the land.
Yay!
And she hung a scarlet cord from her window to remind them of their promise.
See you soon!
Now the Israelites had crossed the Jordan and were camped near the town of Jericho.
Hey!
Hello.
One day, Joshua looked up,
Huh?
and there was a man standing before him.
Hello.
The man said, "I am the commander of the army of the Lord." Joshua asked what the man wanted to tell him, and the Lord said he wanted Joshua to take the city of Jericho,
All right.
but that Joshua needed to follow his instructions exactly.
You got it.
Jericho was shut for fear of the Israelites.
Anyone home? Yeah, well.
No one came out and no one came in. So the Lord told Joshua to gather his soldiers and march around the city for 6 days.
Mark.
The priests were to take the Ark of the Covenant, and 7 priests were to go in front of it, blowing a ram's horn. On the 7th day, they were to march around the city 7 times and blow the horn. Then all the people of Israel were to give a great shout,
Then what?
and then the city walls would fall.
Whoa! Yeah, let's do it.
So Joshua said, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." And the people did shout. And the walls did fall.
Let's go!
The Israelites overtook the city of Jericho as God had commanded.
Rahab!
They remembered Rahab because of her faithfulness. Joshua was faithful in carrying out God's commands, and the Israelites took many other cities as God told them they would.
Oh, nice!
For God will never fail to fulfill his promises. So the Israelites came to live in the land that God had promised Abraham, Isaac, Israel, Joseph, and Moses many years ago.
Have you ever seen a movie about war or watched a documentary about an ancient battle or even read a book about a conflict? Have you ever seen a more odd strategy for taking down your enemy than the one in this story? I mean, think about it. God asks the Israelites to walk in a circle all the way around Jericho one time a day for 6 days. And while they're doing it, they're not allowed to talk. And these guys over here are going to blow horns, and these guys over here are going to carry a big heavy chest. So odd. And then on the 7th day, they have to do it all again, 7 times in a row while shouting. Doesn't that seem like an odd strategy for a battle?
Yeah, it really does. And I bet those Israelites thought that they were going to be doing normal battle stuff like fighting people or hurting people, using their swords, something like that. But instead, they were just walking around. And that must have been pretty confusing for them. But you know what? Sometimes God asks us to do things that might seem strange to us, things that we don't completely understand. Think about Noah. God went to him and said, hey, build this huge boat and put 2 of every animal on it. And Noah just did it. And think about whenever Jesus was walking the earth and he went to where people had died and said, go on, get up, wake up, come on. Super strange. Nobody had seen anything like that before. So this is really actually pretty typical God behavior. And in this story, it's no different. God performs a miracle for the Israelites. On the 7th day, when they're walking around the wall of Jericho, a miracle happened. And that wall came down.
So this story reminds us that God leads us. And even if he asks us to do something really strange, we know that he has a purpose. So let's move on now to dance and sing to our memory verse.
Joshua 1 verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, strong and courageous. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, strong and courageous. Whoa, oh, do not be afraid, no, no. Don't be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go, wherever you go. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go, wherever you go. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, strong and courageous. Have I not commanded you? Be strong, strong and courageous. Whoa, oh, do not be afraid, no, no. Don't be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go, wherever you go. For
joining us this week. In your activity kit for this week, you'll be creating this Ark of the Covenant. Inside of it, you can put your own personal Ark of the Covenant or promise to God. We hope that you do it. They'll be so cute. See you next week.